Welcome to another repair video. This is a 2011 Honda Fit with the 1.5. We are going to change the spark plugs out, and as you can see, the intake manifold runs right over the top of the engine. If you come around, the spark plugs are in the back behind here. So in order to get this out, we need to remove this cowl piece up here, and then we'll get easy access. First step in the process is removing the side hood hinge trim. So up here you can pull out in that direction and then up like that, and it just unclips. So you want to do that for this side and the other side. After those trim pieces are removed, next is to remove the window wipers. This has just a little cap over the top. You can use a screwdriver or anything to pry the cap up. And then these nuts are 14 millimeter. The wiper blades just pop up. Now everything else is done with the hood open. On the sides there's a clip here. When you come along, there's a little clip here, and then another little button clip on the left side there. So we'll get those off, and then this upper cowl cover should be able to just lift right off. To show you real quick, on the back side of this cowl piece there's these blue clips, and they go in here on the back side. So when you lift up the front, just keep wiggling, and then those will pop off the back side. Another thing to keep note of, see if I can show you right here, is the windshield washer fluid hose is also attached underneath this. So it's up to you to remove this cowl completely. You can unplug it right here at this split, and then it'll come out, and then you can remove this from the car. You don't have to, you could just leave it right here. So next on the list is to remove this under cowl here. To remove the lower cowl, you don't have to remove the entire wiper motor, but these three bolts do have to come off. And then once you got those off, they're 10 millimeter. You have 1, 2, 3 back there. You can remove this one or this one, but that makes 4. Coming over here is 5 and 6 that I've counted. 10 millimeter bolts that come out, and then this lower cowl should come right off. So here's the cowl removed. I found it actually easier to just do the whole wiper motor. It ended up just being one extra bolt there in the back that gets removed, and then you could just pull that out of the way. That was actually the easiest way to do it. So now that we're back there, now we have access to those spark plugs. And when you're pulling the cowl off, that lower cowl, it does have an adhesive to this, so just keep wiggling it. Don't give up. Pull, wiggle, pull, wiggle. All right, so now that that's off, let's go ahead and get the spark plugs going. The angle's not the greatest, but each coil just has this connector here, and then a 10 millimeter bolt holding it down. Once those are disconnected, unscrewed, then the coil just pulls right off the top of the plug. Once the coils are removed, you can see inside the spark plug hole, and that is just a standard 5/8 spark plug socket for those. So let's get them pulled out and put the new ones back in. The OEM plugs for these are laser iridium from NGK. They're a little spendy, about $15 a piece, but putting the right plugs in makes a big difference. So with the new ones, Honda does recommend putting a little anti-seize on the threads. Spark plugs and coils are back in. The spark plugs are recommended to be torqued down to 13 foot-pounds. A couple of tips is to always hand thread the spark plugs in, not to use power tools as they go in. Another tip is to, when you put the coils back on, go ahead and plug them in before you tighten that 10 millimeter bolt down. That way your connector doesn't get pinched or stuck underneath the coil. So plug it in, then do that bolt. And then last little tip is, once everything's in, tighten down, start it up before you put everything away, just to make sure that it's running right and everything was done properly. It's very uncommon, but it does happen every once in a while. You can get a bad spark plug from the factory. Just make sure that it's running right before you put everything together, then you don't have to tear it back apart. Just that 1 in a million that it's not running right. All right, those are the tips, so let's get this car back together. Next thing to put back together is this lower cowl panel. The 6 bolts that you took out, torqued to 7.2 foot-pounds. Just snug, tight, but that's the specs if you need them. After that, we put our wiper motor back in location and can tighten those bolts down as well. Alright, now these are on 6.9 foot-pounds. Next is the cowl cover, the top piece, and these are all clips. If you did end up removing your washer spray hose, then make sure you put that back. Once this plastic is snapped back in, everything else is done with the hood in the closed position. We have these side pieces that clip in here and then kind of tuck under this quarter panel. And then these 2 bolts for the wiper arm. You can kind of align your arm the way it was. If you need before, you could put a little piece of tape where it was before. These are torqued to 13 foot-pounds. And then after you get it all torqued, before you put the caps on, go ahead and run the wipers just to make sure that they sit back down. After that, cap it, you're done. You can take it for a test drive if you want, but that is the repair procedure for spark plugs on a 2011 Honda Fit. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you on the next one.